feedback on that? We want to make sure you have clarity coming into Q1. Why?
That's the tone for the whole year.
Yeah, the results have already started, right? And there's a big difference right now where the packs separate. And we'll talk about that here today, and we'll kind of get into that here in a minute for you guys as well. So I'll talk about it now today. I'll teach on this today, and we'll get into the goals. Everybody pretty much have most of their goals figured out or done and printed. Good. We should be in that page in that. I'm going to teach on something. I thought about this a lot and really been keeping notes on my phone and things like that to say, look, what's it going to come down to right now, where we're at in terms of 2022, the transition from 2021 to 2022, what needs to happen based on who we are, the energy we feel here, and what's going on from everybody. And so I kind of broke it down to the overall 2022 domination plan, meaning that what are the most important things that we need to focus on, and also what were some of the weaknesses I saw in 2021, right? And so we'll break down, hey, look, I want to have a certain order of them, what they are, and why it matters. And I'll break it into a model like we usually do. So it's important for us to say what things matter to the right things in the right order. That makes sense, everybody here? Now, you're going to see a change in us, right? And we kind of gave some space last month, right? We had a hard year. Everybody pushed hard. It's the holidays, so we kind of gave some space. You can see certain people fall off, certain people maintain, certain people disappear, certain things happen. And so it's important to make sure that we regroup and refocus in that in terms of what we're doing. Okay, and so the number one most important thing for me, just looking at, say, where we're at right now, who we got around us, and what do we need to do as a team, the number one focus for us in terms of Q1 and really the 2022 as a whole, I think that separates anyone, is intensity. You're going to see that ramp up from us. Talk about that in a minute. Intensity in terms of what needs to happen. Why do you think intensity is number one? More competition than ever.
Yeah, more competition, more buyers, and less properties to choose from.
Yep. And so the reason I wanted that the very first part of the first meeting of Q1 in 2022, right, is what's the number one thing that matters in sports a lot? Makes or breaks the game? Momentum. Right? Momentum is everything in terms of a business standpoint, a sports team, and just about anything and everything, momentum matters the most. If you look at most diets, why they don't work, why do you think most diets don't work?
People start and stop them all the time.
They quit doing it before they see the result. Right? If the results came faster, guess what it does? It tends to make the diet work because they see the result, they follow through. It's the same thing here in terms of how we operate, and it's one of the most important things that we got to make sure we're setting on. So if I can work extra hard right now with intensity and get my results going quicker, it's a lot easier to build that the rest of the year, rest of the quarter. And so look at it and say, look, if I had to break down what are the most important things we have, number one, intensity here, specifically momentum, is really important, right? Watch Baron here, right? Early in the mornings, right? Dialing how many people we talked to today, right? And so on the phones, grinding, getting it done early, right? Before the meeting, did you have to? No, but...
I kind of had a busy day, so yeah, I kind of had to today.
Okay, but a lot of times you don't because
Right.
even last week you're doing the same thing.
Right.
Right? And so I think it's important to understand that piece and say, look, momentum is everything for us as a unit, as an agent, as an individual, because that's what really makes or breaks a lot of the things going forward from a compound effect standpoint. Okay? And so I look and say, look, I can double down right now and make sure I keep that, which is super important overall. Second piece of this, right, which is super important. This has to do, kind of what Baron talked about a second, is right now there's more competition, more agents, and less inventory than really ever before. There's still a good amount of deals, which is good. But ultimately, guess what? There's a lot more people fighting for those deals. And so I can't have the same lax, go through the motions mentality as most agents do and really be at the top and stay at the top, right? And so the second piece is really important. I want everybody to have that all-in mentality. And the reason I put this in here, if I notice between the good agents and the average agents, both here and both outside of here, the ones that are average tend to just go through the motions. They do just enough. They tend to stay in a certain area where they've been, just right in their comfort zone. And so if I can really step myself up, my game up, everything up for this year and have the best year ever in terms of my individual career, right, as an agent, I've got to make sure I'm having the all-in mentality right now from day one. There are some people here who've already missed the first meeting of the year, right, that aren't here, obviously, but on the team missed the first meeting of the year. What's that say from intensity and a momentum standpoint? Lacking, right? And so that's the difference here of maintaining the all-in mentality. And so ask myself, am I just going through the motions? Have I been going through the motions? And how can I double down here for me in Q1? No matter what I have going on, no matter what happens outside of work, I'm here making sure that this is important for me to do and be here. Right? Very, very important in that piece. Right? And that's one thing that we're going to talk about, and we're going to really ramp up in terms of what we do of, hey, look, we really, like I said, let off a little bit last month to give space. A lot of people are kind of recharged, but from here on out, right, people are expected to be at meetings. Tuesday's the absolute minimum standard to be here, right? If they want to, they don't got to be here, but to get leads and be on the lead plan, people need to be at the meetings, right? Also, huddles included. So very, very important in that aspect. Third piece, very, very important right now, laser focus with intensity. What do you think that means? With intensity. Who's got something? Brandon, what do you think that means?
Calls, text, email.
That's what the client wants to hear, right? We had it happen last week. Person calls in, complaining about agent on the team. Doesn't feel like the person's good enough that can help them, that can handle them. Right? Is that probably the case? Are they qualified to sell my house? Yeah, but did the client feel they're qualified? No, because there's a level of focus of intensity that's missing there that client's not feeling that scenario, and that's just the one that called in. For everyone that calls in, there's 5 to 6 that just disappear. They just go bow your competitor because they don't feel like you're qualified from a focus and intensity standpoint, which it feels like skill set on the outside, but that's not actually it because they can't manage your skill set. They can't measure your skill set. They're just feeling their energy between you and them. And so like Barron said, hey, look, I want laser focus with my intensity in my communication. We got to call them back, my speed of response, right? My tonality when I'm with them. And so these things matter in terms of how am I entering my relationships with my clients every single day. Same thing here. I get in here early, making my phone calls. Right now, everything matters, and that's why I have intensity number one. That's what's going to separate the great from just the average going into Q1. And ultimately, what multiplies from Q1 is going to separate and really have the telltale of the entire year. Super important, that piece. Fourth one here, right? Which also kind of goes with focus, but I wanted it to be in here just from that same scenario we just talked about from the client standpoint. The fourth one's energy. Energy, right? Intense energy in terms of I'm here to win for my client. I want my clients to feel that energy. It really goes down to these extra 10 or 15 deals you can add to your overall numbers throughout the year just by having the energy that's attracted to my client, which is what? I'm a go-getter, right? A force to be reckoned with. And I'm here to get the job done, to get you what you want because I care about the outcome. Okay, and I want to make sure that I deliver that every single day. Now, does this feel natural every day? Absolutely not, right? It's something we have to create from the inside to make sure that, hey, look, I know what my responsibility is here to win at a high level with my clients and have them stay with me, want to be with me. And so I need to make sure I have this checklist in the morning that I can find and be able to create that energy to have them want to work with me and be with me, right? And so very, very important. I just look at the reason I put this here. We lose a lot of deals that we don't know about because the client just lets off the pedal and there's something they don't really trust or feel in terms of connection. And so all of a sudden they go to somebody else who has those things that they want. They don't even really know what they want, they just know what they feel. And so it's important for us to lead with this, and this is really something that we can easily control in terms of how we show up, make sure we have that laser focus, what we do, right? Very important piece on that one. Very simple. Now, what do you guys think the second most important one is based on what you've seen last year? What was it?
Just talking about discipline.
Okay.
Management. One of those two.
All right, what else? It's close. It's part of the same thing.
Calendar.
Consistency, which all those things are grouped into what? Consistency, right? And so, wow, what do you guys see happening a lot of times? With agents, yourself, anybody else. Happens over and over and over, right? And so what happens is a lot of people looked at the overall numbers at the end of the year. Man, I could have done so much more, right? I could have won, I could have had that. Or everyone I talk to a lot of times say, look, I know I could have done a lot more. I was so close. I've had people tell me about that, right? Patrick said something about it. Austin said something about it, right? The top two buyer sides came within one deal, right? 55 and 56 the difference. And so one thing that's most important is say, how do I make sure I manage my consistency over the year? This is the hardest part for anybody. So number one killer for real estate, right? Agents, we talk is what? Freedom. And so people get some momentum, and all of a sudden they over and over and over do what? Let them fall off the gas, get off the horse, let the horse walk around, then go try to find another horse. Right? Over and over and over. And so look and say, what's the key to me really make sure I dominate as an agent individually for 2022? I got to make sure my focus also is consistency. Meaning that, right, I wrote this kind of here as an example, I show up no matter what. What do you think that means? Show up no matter what? Yes.
Tired, sick, going through relationship issues.
The key word there is feel, right? No matter what, even if I don't feel like it. So like you mentioned, I'm tired, I'm sick, relationship issues, right? Whatever it may be. I'm here, focused, because I just know that I want to be consistent. Consistent for who? For me. To keep my momentum, keep my pressure I have on myself to make sure I cannot lose the results you have. Why? Because it's a very, very important compound effect business. Why is that? We have a very long sales cycle. We sell a high-ticket item, right? And so high-ticket items with a long sales cycle require more consistency. Why? Because it takes longer to get the deal off the ground to get it to the closing table. We all know the hardest part is building what? The pipeline. And so make sure we're pushing that in that scenario, which is very, very important. Second piece here. Baron talked about a minute ago, making sure I'm managing at a deep level my calendar. Consistently. What do you think that means? The most valuable thing that you have this year is going to be your time. It's the only thing that anybody has that's all on the same level, right? Everyone has the same amount of time in the day, right? But the difference is who uses what and how much they get out of that one resource they have. And so I want you to make a commitment today and say, look, this is one of the most valuable resources I have this entire year. I've got to get good at managing at the next level. No matter what level you're at right now, I need you to find the next level for you as an individual of how do I measure that deeper. Right? In terms of tasks I do. Am I aware of the minutes every single day? Am I watching the calendar to make sure that I'm fitting in my time blocks? And I want you guys to do one thing, is master time blocks. What do you think that means? Yes, in a way, but I want you guys to plan and batch. Plan and batch. One of the most valuable things I've gotten in my career as an entrepreneur, agent, whatever you want to call it, is the ability to batch items together. What do you think that means? Yes. Batching is double or triple more effective in terms of that than just reactionary. So a lot of people do what? They'll check an email. Then what do? Go back, do something else, make a phone call, go back to the email. And it's very inefficient because I spend all my time switching gears mentally in terms of who I am, what I'm doing in that scenario, and I'm not really building that momentum I need to get the results I want at a high level. And a level I can scale in terms of my own business on the inside as an agent. Right? Very, very important for us to look at that in that piece overall. And which leads to my next piece of that. I want you guys to look at the whole idea here in consistency, right? It brings me what we call power in patterns. There's power in patterns. What do you think that means? There's power in patterns. Right. Which is good. And allows you to build that as you do it over and over and over. Guess what? Doing that running gets easier, right? The reading gets easier. And so I want you guys to understand there's power in patterns, meaning same time, same place every day. The same time, same place every day. How can I make sure that I'm designing my schedule right now at the beginning of the year, right, where I still have opportunity, time on the board, so to speak, that I can really design my schedule to make sure I have power and patterns, meaning I'm able to do the same thing the same time every day in the same place in the same way. Why? Because we're human. We're playing the psychological play on myself to make sure I can maximize my energy, maximize my results in that pattern. It feels comfortable, right? It's like shooting free throws. Shoot thousands and thousands and thousands of them, guess what happens? What happens, Austin? It gets easier, right? All of a sudden you feel confident. All of a sudden it feels natural because you're doing patterns. A lot of people, they try to get too bored and they can't stick with the pattern and they lose momentum. Over and over and over and over again. So if you have one that has a story that says, I don't like doing the same things over, the mundane, right? You got to make sure that you say, look, how do I look at myself and the results I want? That's the part here of mastering the mundane. Mastering the mundane. That's what gets people paid, right? The sexy stuff doesn't really get you paid. What gets you paid here? Follow-up, right? New leads, bucket leads, consistency in terms of having the same patterns. I'm calling my buckets at the same time every day, right? All these different things are very, very important. A lot of people just keep chopping a bunch of trees. I told us a long time ago, right? What do people do? They go chop some trees with an axe, right? 50 times, 60 times, and guess what? Make a little dent. What do? Most people in business, they'll just go chop another tree. 50, 60 times, and guess what? By the time you chop 10 trees, none of them have fallen yet. The idea here is making sure I'm able to push these patterns that bring you power until I chop each tree down, move to the next one. Right? It's very important. I'm looking at how do I last this entire year in terms of what I'm doing here, which is very, very, very important. Right? Other piece. Last one. Ruthless commitment. 2, consistency. Ruthless commitment, meaning that I'm committed to consistency this year. If I look at the number one opportunity as a group of agents and weaknesses that we had last year, we had a lot of talent who was missing the one piece of consistency that would have made them a lot more money. In some cases, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 more dollars. They had a great month, $10,000, $15,000 a month, pull off the pedal. Right? Great month, pull off the pedal. And so if I can just make sure that person that shows up no matter what with ruthless commitment to stick to my consistency, no matter what, if I have bad days, good days, guess what continues to roll in? My results make a big difference. Right? Very, very important for us to say, look, how do I just commit to this piece this year and let it change my life? For me, right, it's about just showing up. Staying to a certain time. Have my calendar. If I'm here till 5 o'clock, whatever my calendar says my plan is, I'm going to fill that gap with something that stacks up over time, week after week, month after month, all the way through this year. You guys with me on this? Very, very important in that piece overall.